Welcome to the What's Your Weird Story podcast.
Everyone has at least one good story.
And some of us have stories that are just to the left of normal.
We're interested in the ones that push the boundaries of what we can perceive.
Stories that defy explanations.
Stories with an air of mystery.
Stories we might not share
for fear of being thought of differently.
But don't worry, we're all friends here. So, what's your weird story? So Barry, we're taking this little bit of time to make a micro episode, a mini episode, just to give some facts about ourselves, and just to kind of point out what our mission is here with the What's Your Weird Story podcast, and where we stand on our beliefs in this kind of unusual world, these things, and just some other, general information to help our new viewers or listeners rather know where we are and who we are.
Sure. I think a lot of people probably want to know, are we skeptical when it comes to these types of stories? And I think that's something that anybody would ask. And, and we've talked about this before, off air, and I think we both sort of consider ourselves to be soft critics, as you put it, soft critics. Yeah. And, the main thing is that we're giving a platform for people to tell their stories. And the way that I see it personally is it's not up to me to convince people whether or not what somebody is saying is factual, because I've had experiences in my life, and if I would have told someone that, maybe I don't know very well, because they have no reason to base anything what I say is factual, they probably wouldn't believe what I'm saying. And so I get that, and I'm not one of those people that is sort of geared toward convincing people. I just, and I think you feel the same way, that I just want to give somebody a chance to talk about something that they don't normally have the ability to talk about, because of people thinking that they might be a little strange or what have you. Exactly.
Yeah, I consider myself to be a fairly grounded person, someone who is pretty, in touch with like more of a scientific mindset. I haven't had any what you would call supernatural type experiences with things like, any ghost or anything in that aspect. I have seen things that are, in the sky that are literal UFOs, because I didn't know what they were.
Right.
They didn't behave like normal planes.
Sure.
I've got a story to tell concerning that a little bit later in another epic episode. I believe in the possibility for a life on other planets, just simply by numbers and by science, just how it breaks down.
Of course.
I like, like a soft, I said, soft skeptic, because I have this side that I believe in. I haven't had these other experiences, but I believe when people are telling me that they've had these experiences, and we take it for, we take people as their word that what they're telling us, what they're sharing with us is a true experience, on, from what they've had in their life. And I believe that when someone tells me that, you can hear it in their voice and how they tell the story, and that they believe it, if they believe it, and that they believe it. And, and I believe they have, I believe that they've had that experience, and it's, part of their life, sure, part of their experience in living. And, our perception as human beings is really so limited. We have this very short end of the visual spectrum that we see with our eyes, and how we perceive with our eyes. We don't have the senses other animals have. We don't have smell that other animals have, or the taste, or anything like that. So our perception is so small, and yet we sit here and we're like, well, we know everything, but we also know so very little.
Oh, we that's the thing, is that we don't have a full grasp of. We know a few laws of our world and the things that work in our world, but we don't know what happens after that. We don't know what happens once you get outside of,
or to the left of, or to there's so many. I mean, what are dimensional kind of things, and parallel universes and other universes that may exist. That all this stuff that was when we were young. And reading comic books, and I've always always been a big comic book guy. All these things were it was science fiction, and the past 30 years, 40 years,
we've fiction.
They're
truth.
They become left the realm of fiction and become reality. And or at least theoretical reality. So I mean. So I believe in that stuff as a possibility, and I believe in this other stuff as possibilities. And I don't necessarily prescribe to everything that everyone tells me as from the way I perceive the universe, but I understand that that's how they do.
Sure.
And so that's why I'm here.
And that's what the most important thing is about what we're doing here is we're meeting people where they're at. We're providing a situation for people to talk about these things in a forum that they're not going to be ridiculed for. Do we have questions? Yeah, we got questions. It is something valid based upon what my idea of what I believe reality to be. Because I tell you right now, that could be on any given day a strange, complex thing. Some days it may be a little bit more linear, but the ideas that we're able to come up with as human beings are given to us in the ether. And the idea that anything that we can think of, we are able to create, is something that fascinates me. And it's something that I don't think we have a real grasp on yet. You know what I mean? It's like our minds will allow us to only understand so much for some reason.
Yeah. And our, going along with that, our minds also shape our reality so that
absolutely
how we understand things,
absolutely
to what we understand. So they give us a frame of reference of our previous experiences. So that, that our minds do that. So,
well, that's one of the, it's funny because when you're a kid, you're taught these sort of hard rules, right? Don't put your hand on the stove.
Right.
Don't get close to a large body of water without a flotation device. These are things.
Don't drink out of the toilet.
Don't drink out of the toilet. Don't let your sister let you eat dog shit out of the straw. But the reason why those things are done as children is because that's what you can understand at that time. Pain equals some sort of light bulb, some sort of lesson. And as we grow, slowly the spectrum that we're able to see the world starts to open up a little bit, And you have to be receptive to ideas that maybe you wouldn't have thought about. Whenever we grew up, it was a bit more straight down the path, straight down. We're not going to take too much time to look around. We're going to sort of play within the rules, play within the guidelines. But what you realize is once you get out in the great wide world, that some of the stuff is a little bit slippery. What is consciousness? Okay. Mm-hmm. Is consciousness only when I'm awake? Or is consciousness everything from being awake to being in dream state to meditation to being visited by ghosts? I mean, there's a lot going on, and I don't pretend like I know it all. I like to have an open mind when it comes to people's experiences and whether or not they can be verified. To me, it's up to the individual.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, agreed.
But I think it's important to have that conversation.
Yeah, definitely. And it's important to provide that safe area, for lack of a better term. I know that's kind of a trigger phrase these days.
That's a trigger for people that hate triggers.
Right. Or, that's it. But, but it's
true.
But it's true. This is an area that it's safe. It's neutral ground.
Get weird.
It's just let it go. It's let it go, man.
Yeah.
It's just, tell us how it is and tell us, your secret weirdness or your daily weirdness. This is what we're here for. We want to hear from you guys. We're exploring the universe through the stories that you tell. And you can't see, but I did air quotes around universe because that's YOU is the first part.
Yes.
And that's cheesy, and I know it, but that's what that's all part of it.
It's great.
So. All right. Well, thanks for listening, guys. I hope we didn't sound too just full of hot air there, but we wanted to give you an insight to us as people. Besides just a couple of dudes who have been friends forever and who are, just hanging out on the internet and chatting with people, because we are indeed that, but we're, as far as, for the subject matter, we're more, and there's so much more to learn from each other and and we hope to learn through this podcast, and we hope to have a lot of fun through this podcast.
That's what it's all about, having fun. So send us your weird stories. Get in touch with us and get on the podcast. We would love to have you.
Right on. Hey guys, don't forget to follow us on all of our social media platforms. We're very 21st century. We're on Instagram at What's Your Weird Story. That's WATSYER Weird Story. We're at Twitter. We're at What's Your Weird. We got a Facebook page. It's the What's Your Weird Story podcast Facebook page. Just remember that our your is your because we're folksy. And we also have a www.whatsyourweirdstory.com. That's www.whatsyourweirdstory.com. That's for all of your social media platforms, and those are ways you can contact us and set up an interview if you want to be part of the show. So look us up. Hey Barry, you know what we need?
What's that?
We need all our friends and listeners to go and rate and review us the highest possible of all those things on all their podcast providers. iTunes, Spotify, Podbean, whatever. You know them all. You listen to them all, or at least one of them. So please go. Give us all the stars, all the thumbs up, all the hearts, all the love, great reviews, so we can grow our audience and more people can add and contribute to not only the stories, but to the listening and being part of this huge community that we are going to build. That's what we need. As always, if you have a weird story, we want to hear it.
If you have a lot of them, we want to hear them all.
We can't do this podcast without your invaluable contributions.
Whether it's sharing your stories,
listening,
rating,
and spreading the word about the podcast. Thanks for listening. Till next time, be safe.
Be weird.